guys, welcome to Chapter 6. So we're still reading The Magic Tree House number 1, Dinosaurs Before Dark by Mary Pope Osborne. We're on Chapter 6 called Dinosaur Valley. It says, "Annie, look at this," Jack called. "Look what I found." Annie had gone up to the hilltop. She was busy picking a flower from the magnolia tree. "Annie, look, a medallion!" But Annie wasn't paying attention to Jack. She was staring at something on the other side of the hill. "Oh, wow," she said. "Annie!" Clutching her magnolia flower, she took off down the hill. "Annie, come back!" Jack shouted, but Annie had disappeared. "I'm gonna kill her," Jack muttered. He stuffed the gold medallion into his jeans pocket. Then he heard Annie shriek. "Annie?" Jack heard another sound as well, a deep bellowing sound like a tuba. "Jack, come here," Annie called. "Annie!" Jack grabbed his backpack and raced up the hill. When he got to the top, he gasped. The valley below was filled with nests, big nests made out of mud. And the nests were filled with tiny dinosaurs. You see the tiny dinosaurs in those nests? See that? Annie was crouching next to one of the nests, and standing over her was a gigantic duck-billed dinosaur. "Don't panic, don't move," said Jack. He stepped slowly toward Annie. The huge dinosaur was towering above Annie, waving her arms, making a tuba sound. Jack stopped. He didn't want to get too close. He knelt on the ground. "Okay, move toward me slowly," he said. Annie started to stand up. "Don't stand. Crawl," said Jack. Clutching her flower, Annie crawled toward Jack. The duck-billed dinosaur followed her, still bellowing. Annie froze. "Keep going," Jack said softly. Annie started crawling again. Jack inched farther down the hill until he was just an arm's distance from Annie. He reached out and grabbed her hand. He pulled Annie toward him. "Stay down," he said. He crouched next to her. "Bow your head. Pretend to chew." "Chew?" "Yes. I read that's what you do if a mean dog comes at you." "She's no dog, Jack," said Annie. "Just chew," said Jack. Jack and Annie both bowed their heads and pretended to chew. Soon the dinosaur grew quiet. Jack raised his head. "I don't think she's mad anymore," he said. "Thanks, Jack, for saving me," said Annie. "You have to use your brain," said Jack. "You can't just go running off to a nest of babies. There's always a mother nearby." Annie stood up. "Annie!" Too late. Annie held out her magnolia flower to the dinosaur. "I'm sorry I made you worry about your babies," she said. The dinosaur moved closer to Annie. She grabbed the flower from her. She reached for another. "No more," said Annie. The dinosaur let out a sad tuba sound. "But there are more flowers up there," Annie said. She pointed to the top of the hill. "I'll get you some." Annie hurried up the hill. The dinosaur waddled after her. Jack quickly examined the babies. Some were crawling out of their nests. Where were the other mothers? Jack took out the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. He found a picture of some duck-billed dinosaurs. He read the caption. "The Anatosauruses lived in colonies. While a few mothers babysat the nests, the others hunted for food." So there must be more mothers close by. "Hey, Jack!" Annie called. Jack looked up. Annie was at the top of the hill feeding magnolia flowers to the giant Anatosaurus. "She's nice too, Jack," Annie said. But suddenly, the Anatosaurus made her terrible tuba sound. Annie crouched down and started to chew. The dinosaur barged down the hill. She seemed afraid of something. Jack put the book down on top of his pack and hurried to Annie. There's Annie crouching down again and Jack coming to rescue her. And there's the Anatosaurus running back to its nest. "I wonder why she ran away," said Annie. "We were starting to be friends." Jack looked around. What he saw in the distance almost made him throw up. An enormous ugly monster was coming across the plain. He was walking on 2 big legs and swinging a long, thick tail and 2 dangling, tiny arms. He had a huge head and his jaws were wide open. Even from far away, Jack could see his long, gleaming teeth. "Tyrannosaurus Rex," whispered Jack. In chapter 6. Remember, we talked about chapter books and how at the end of every chapter, there's always a hook to make you want to read the next chapter. So let's answer some questions for chapter 6, and then we can get on to chapter 7 and see what happens next. So go ahead and get out your Dinosaurs Before Dark packet. Answer the questions for chapter 6. Go ahead and push pause on this video to answer those questions and push play when you're ready to go over them together. See you there. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to answer the questions for chapter 6. Let's start them together. It says, why do you think the dinosaur near the nest was so upset? Why do you think she was so upset? This is your opinion. It's what you think. So there's no right or wrong answer. I think the dinosaur was upset because someone was getting close to her babies that she didn't know. So I know I would get upset if I had a nest and people were near them and I didn't know if they were going to be nice to them or if they were going to hurt the babies in the nest. So maybe that's why the mother dinosaur got mad. You write down what you think. You'll start your sentence with I think. Number 2, what did Jack tell Annie to do? A, crawl quickly and act scary. B, run carefully and quietly. Or C, crawl slowly and pretend to chew. If we use our book, we can go back and check for the text evidence to say what the correct answer is. So if we look, it says he told her to move slowly, and he said don't stand, crawl, and he wanted her to pretend like she was eating, right? He said bow your head and pretend to chew. So what did Jack tell Annie to do? He told her C, crawl slowly and pretend to chew. And number 3, why did the Anatosaurus run down the hill? So the Anatosaurus is the big dinosaur that Annie was feeding flowers to, this dinosaur here. Why did it run down the hill? If we look in the book, we can see that Jack looked around and saw something in the distance that almost made him throw up. An enormous, ugly monster. And then if we look down below, we find out it was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a T-Rex. So the Anatosaurus ran away because a T-Rex was coming. I would run away if I saw a T-Rex coming too, wouldn't you? Yeah, I would. Okay, so that was chapter 6. We're ready for chapter 7. Hopefully you did well on your questions and you're ready for the next chapter. So go ahead and when this video is over, click on chapter 7 and I'll see you there to find out what happens next.